Good evening. We are not recording in the morning.
We are not.
So, good evening. And welcome to the Bro Dads Podcast. I'm Malachi.
Skylar.
And today, we are going to... Actually, first off, work story. How was your work week, Skylar?
Oh. I got a good work story. It was a short work week because of Labor Day. So that was nice. And now it's the
It
weekend.
throws me off.
It does, but I'm not complaining.
But yes, okay,
Yeah.
Work story.
So, you haven't heard this.
I have not.
So, we got a call for a leaky toilet, right? So, all right. And slightly interesting customers, just in general. You have customers like that in any line of work where they show up and you're like, oh, okay, whatever, is what it is. So we get there, and me and my brother, Sawyer, right, we go in, and we take a look at the toilet, and first we realize that he had tried to, I don't know what he was doing, he had tried to do his own work, and it was leaking.
Like unplugging it or just damage?
I don't know.
Because I was going to say, you brought up
It looked like
toilet snake thing.
No, but it looked like he tried to add a little bidet thing to it, where if you sit down, you turn the handle and wash your butt.
Cleans you off.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I accidentally shot myself with it when we were testing some stuff. Anyway, it's clean water, thankfully. So anyway, we go and taking a look at it, and you'd taking the tank off and stuff and put it back on. Well, it was leaking because he put the washers on the wrong side of the bolts, and so it was just leaking around. So we're like, okay, well, we got to take it apart. But he somehow shifted the whole base, so we're like, we're going to have to do a new wax ring. So we go out. We get the things we need, so we don't have to empty the whole van. So we go get the stuff we need. We come back, and we go to start our process. Well, this bathroom is kind of located, you come in a door, and there's a general entry hallway, and then there's a door there, but it's a shared bathroom, so you have a hallway, entry door to the bathroom, and then there's a bedroom off of it that shares the bathroom.
Okay.
And that door was closed. And we could hear a TV on in there initially when we came in. Well, as we're working,
Oh, no.
all of a sudden, we start hearing this grunting.
Oh, please, no.
And it's you're trying to think of anything else in the world, and we have this device we use for sucking the water out, and it's really handy because you don't have to bring a vacuum in and all this other stuff, but you can just, it's got a hose on it, and then there's a handle, a plunger thingy on the other end. You can suck it up, and then you stick it down through the trap of the toilet, and you push the water out, and you just keep pumping the water out, and then you're done. And you don't have to go dump the vacuum out and all this other stuff, right?
But it's not noisy enough to...
Yeah, and I'm trying to be as loud as I can to mask the noise of what I'm hearing in the other room. And there's... anyone that's seen any kind of movie where there's stuff going on in the other room, right? You know what I'm talking about. And that's exactly what it sounds like. And we're like, oh dear God.
No.
And the worst part is there's no women in the house. And it's just there's 3 or 4 guys that live there, and we're telling ourselves
This is getting so bad.
that it's no, because there is an older, slightly older guy, I don't know, 70s guy that lives there, and isn't in the best health, and we're we keep telling ourselves, no, they were helping him get out of bed to take him somewhere, is what we're trying to tell ourselves. But the worst part while I was nearing the end of trying to make as much noise as I could, all of a sudden I hear, I'm coming! from the other room, and I'm like, God no! Why is this happening?
Why did you have to start? Oh my gosh!
That's my work story. How was your week?
I
That would have been better than mine.
I got nothing. That is so lame.
Yeah.
Now I have to try to like embellish some story
the thing
as
is,
much as I possibly can.
Here's the thing. I don't think that's one you want to top. Because it is one that is forever ingrained in the back of my head.
Well, now everyone's head.
Yeah, now it's all in your head. You're welcome.
Why don't you like
I
like
don't know,
run
pound
into
on the
the
door
or
something
on accident?
Because you're just like...
Jeepers.
It was, anyway, an experience.
Dude, my week was so boring.
Compared to that.
Yeah. So uneventful. I can't say it was boring. It was just so uneventful. It's just having that day gone just totally throws my week off. I'm just like, all right, I got one more day to get my projects done. Or one more like, I'll do that. Okay, finish this, get that. Okay, I'll do that tomorrow. Well, no, tomorrow's the weekend.
Yeah. But now...
Doesn't mean I'm not working, but...
Give you more time. You had the long weekend to get stuff done. And
Yeah, I don't know. I just worked on putting a railing on a deck, put different siding on a house.
Yep.
Yeah, very uneventful. I didn't have to cough, make noise, or nothing. I mean, the customer I was working for, she was really sweet, older lady. It's a couple. She gave me ice cream.
That's nice.
Yeah, I'm like, this is cool.
I did not.
Not that it was a hot week to have ice cream, but whatever. Anyway, my work week is
highly uneventful.
I should have gone first.
You should.
That way I felt better about myself in my week.
There'd have been a build up to it instead of like...
Yeah, now I just...
The climax at the beginning.
Pushed down to nothing.
We went the climax of the show at the beginning.
Did you purposely use the word climax? Okay. This is horrible.
Anyway, welcome to our crap show.
Exactly. Tell us what the highlights are, Skyler.
Yeah, well, we had obviously our little story there. We got Toilet Talk will be up next. Just covering some of the week's highlights that we've seen in different things or things that we've been looking at. Main story or main topic is going to be, we're going over, this is part 3 of our buying a house guide as far as what you should be looking for walking in. And this one's going to go a little faster just because there's, the foundation was important, but when we're getting into the primary of like a house, right? Mm-hmm. It's everything first and second floor. So everything kind of above ground or that is obviously going to be visible from the road. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be going over that, what to look for from obviously a carpenter and a plumber's point of view. Mine shouldn't be a huge rant on it, but just the basics is what you're going to be obviously seeing. Then Man Minute, we're going to be talking about lemonade. Yeah. And then Conspiracy, it's more of a political rant. Well, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that I've heard through the week, different things that I've been looking at, and we're just ranting about frustrations and annoyances in governments.
Just because we're getting to the point where it's just pissing us off.
Yeah.
And like we're sitting here, we're doing research off camera, we're meeting at least twice a week, trying to come up with content for the show, and as we're talking,
it's just, we're inundated with it.
Yeah.
Constantly.
It gets frustrating. So we're just like, what's the topic going to be? And we're just ranting.
Yep. Getting it out off our chest.
Yeah. So,
but anyway, we got Toilet Talk. Malachi, you take it away first, because I'm going to look up mine. Well, I have mine up.
So, when we were first coming up with the idea of doing a show, Skylar was super passionate about conspiracy talks and news. Me, on the other hand, I have such a boring life. I have no clue what I want to talk about. So I had to like really push hard.
Yeah, I got to
figure out.
I'm constantly having to keep him up to date on what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I'm trying to live under a rock, and then he just keeps moving it. But anyway. Jokes aside, I actually just wanted to kind of go on a gun topic for toilet talk. In the sense of, is there benefits to owning a gun? Is there not benefits to owning a gun? Should you? Shouldn't you? If you own one, are you taking the right protocols in safety for you and your family and the people around you? Mm-hmm. Don't just buy a gun because someone tells you to buy a gun and then you're just like, well, now what?
Well, first, buy a gun. And then, but, like, that should be your first initial mindset if you don't have one.
Buy one.
But go talk to people and get the right one for you in your situation. And what your state even allows you to get. Because if you live in New York or California, you can't even get a knife. So, good luck.
You can get a pocket knife.
Yeah, but the blade's got to be, like, less than, I think, like 2 inches. But you can get, like, a kitchen knife set. And that can be as long as you want it to be. So just walk around with that.
Yeah, get a kitchen knife, like the big butcher one.
Yeah.
Get a sheath for it. Wear it around.
Well, and just be like, I'm going to a dinner party. Anyway.
There you go. Wears it around. He's a gun expert. And so the reason, kind of why, it's a hidden reason, why I picked this is because I knew you'd just pick up on it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to read this short little paragraph from Fox News. This was published June 30th, 2022. So been a little bit, but I just kind of want to bring this to you guys' attention. Probably going to go, so just starts off with, gun ownership is higher in states with fewer restrictions, and homicide rates in these states are lower. People can protect themselves. George Mason University professor Emerita Joyce Lee Malcolm told Fox News Digital of what she's found through her research. Malcolm pointed out a study on burglaries from 1986 that found 34% of burglaries interviewed reported to have been scared off, shot at, wounded, or captured by an armed victim. So my thought is, it's like, how are you going to protect yourself if someone's intruding and you don't have a weapon?
You're going to first call 911 and pray that they get there in less than the typical arrival time of anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes.
Or you just walk around with a bat or a kitchen knife like you see in the movies.
Right.
You're totally prepared for that.
That's highly effective against another firearm.
Yeah.
Or just intruder who's bent on raising mayhem.
Yeah. So
the thing is that, like, especially how, I think your mindset changed. You even said where your thought process on like how you would defend yourself changes so much when all of a sudden you're holding your child, your first child in your arms, and you're like, I will die for you.
Yeah.
And anyone that tries to harm you, I'm going to need a shovel, kind of thing. Like, it's your entire mindset changes as far as how, I mean, if you are a God-fearing man who loves his family, your mindset is, I will do whatever it takes to protect my child and my family, right? Mm-hmm. I have a communist uncle on my wife's side who literally has said, no, if my wife was being raped, I would literally allow them to rape her over defending her and possibly killing him. And I'm like, you are not a man.
Yeah. So my view, like Skylar was saying, has kind of changed in the mindset where it's just like, am I to be the one to take a life? But the only reason I'm thinking that way is because of how I was brought up. Not saying my parents, but because of how the world has brought people up. Mm-hmm. There's no repercussion for actions nowadays. Like, what I mean is, if you are an absolute, I don't even know what words to say, we'll just keep it simple, idiot, and think that messing with children is cool, you just need to be shot, dead, done. And what I mean by that is there's no place on earth for those people to exist. And there's a lot of it's a mental issue, but the thing is we live in a sinful world, and this just is okay. Like we're making where it's just like, oh, okay, you're just gonna be in prison for a little bit, and that's it, which we have to pay for.
Yeah, did you know that in I think it was Minnesota, there was a lady who she was involved in, she targeted, I forget, he was a Republican guy. He used her to solicit 15 to 16-year-old girls, and she helped sex traffic them for him, right? And he paid them for sex stuff, right? And so they convicted her of sex trafficking, found guilty on a plea deal, which anytime it's a plea deal, it's a complete joke. 3 years in prison for that. 3 years for sex trafficking, like 5 or 6 girls.
And that's perfectly
And I think
fine.
that guy, like,
so
maybe got
this is where
maybe.
like I'm saying, where I changed my mind. And it's not that I was against guns, it was just that idea of like taking a life, because that's a super serious thing. But since having my child, he had already had 4 before I had my one. And he's just like, no, if someone's coming after my family, there's no thought about it. Really. I mean, yes, there's thinking about it. And you've done a lot of research and practice with the gun and all this kind of stuff. So it's not just some joke we're taking a life because we want to. But seriously, it's because the system that was put in place to protect us and our family is not doing their job.
Yeah. Well,
and they get to just walk over it. And the people that are trying to protect us are also the ones taking our kids and putting them into the system anyway.
Yeah. I think there's a huge part too, like when we had talked about it, was how I think what helped bring you around was talking about everyone always argues the thou shall not murder, right?
Yep.
Or sorry, thou shall not kill. Everyone says thou shall not kill, and that's not what it exactly says. It depends on your
translation.
Translation.
Yep.
Some of them say thou shall not kill, right? Specifically, it says thou shall not murder, and the definition of a murder is the unjust killing of an innocent person, right?
Yep.
If that person is bringing physical harm to a loved one and you delete them, that is not murder.
Yeah.
That is a justified killing to protect those that you love.
Yep.
However, because our justice system is a flipping joke, you will be found guilty. So you better find it. It better be darn clear, and you better live in a state that you have castle law. Like, just make sure your butt's covered, because they will do everything to bury you. And then that family will come after you, even though they may have been caught in the exact act of a heinous crime. Mm-hmm. They will still go, we're suing you. And Kyle Rittenhouse is being sued by the family of a child predator that he shot and killed defending himself, and he was found innocent of all that, but yet that family is now coming after him and suing him for having protected himself against this attacker, who was a pedophile.
Yeah. So biggest
system's
thing,
a joke.
Yeah, the system's a joke. Do your research, study laws. Like, it's sad what we have to do because the system isn't out there to help us.
Yeah.
To continue, I brought this up on the screen. If you can see this is the number, all of this chart going up is the percentage of households with at least one firearm, and this was charted in 2020. So it has increased, if you can see that. All of these little things that's up and then down and then up a little bit, up and then down, up, down, up, down. It has maintained itself pretty consistently. It's on the screen. It's a little hard to see. But there's a blue line. It's murders per 1,000 population.
100,000.
100, sorry. And then gun murders per 100,000 population. So what I'm trying to get at here is the amount of gun ownership has gone up. This has not gone up.
Hey, sorry, really quick. Is there blue lines out there?
Yes.
Where?
To the left of the red. Blue, red, and then tall. This is a colorblind man looking at a color screen. We'll have to do a second.
That's really weird. It looks black to me. I'm like, I don't see the blue. Anyway.
My point is with this, now this is just some chart. It is on the Fox News, again, published June 30th. He's up there.
Not that I'm a huge fan of Fox News, but they're
love them.
They're putting out data from an independent study. So.
Yes. But the reason why I just kind of wanted to point this out again, this is all online.
Oh, actually, the source is the FBI, Census Bureau, Rand Corporation.
Nice.
All right. So a 3-letter agency and whatever the other 2 are.
Census Bureau? Anyway.
Yeah.
It goes to show that in the increase of owning guns and the crazy stupid world that we live in, this hasn't increased because the guns have increased. If they were to take our guns away, all of these little lines would increase because now the people that are breaking laws are going to break laws and get guns. The people that are trying to abide by the laws are going to be the ones to pay for it. So
that's how it always goes.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, look at Nazi Germany. What happened if they took the guns away there? Or in every country they overtook?
Own a gun and do a crazy amount of
training.
And don't take that lightly. Don't just like play around with it and be like, oh, look at this, I got this gun. It's like, you got to make sure bullets out of the chamber's open. I mean, you have to be aware because this is not a joke whatsoever. If you have little kids, keep it out of range of anything. Don't keep
take a firearm safety course. Start with that. Like, you don't have to be like, oh, I need to learn how to shoot per se. First thing you should learn, the first thing that I learned was firearm safety.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is, rule number 1: treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
That's my just off random weird.
Yeah. Mine. Well, believe it or not, Nancy Pelosi is running again. What? She had talked about retiring, but she apparently got another shipment of adrenochrome and figured, I can run again for, another 2 years. Because take a gander as to how old she is.
60 something?
Yeah, right. No, take a real guess.
I don't know.
I mean, if she was your grandma, how old do you think she would be?
75?
Yeah, you wish. She's 83 right now. So she is 83 years old.
I guess my grandparents passed away in 72, so yeah. 80s.
So anyway, she's 83 years old right now. And so that will be, because then it's a 2-year term for the House. So she would be 85. Well, wait. She's 83 now. So then she's running. So she'll probably be 84 by the time next election cycle comes up in November. So she'd be 86 by the time her next re-election. I mean, dude, like in flippin' Tangled, when the old lady falls out of the window and turns to dust, that's her and 90% of Congress. That's what I imagine. If you gave them a push, they'd just be gone. But because all those old people, why are we? Well, they just keep putting adrenochrome in them, and that somehow keeps them alive. But it's just a joke. It ticks me off.
I don't understand when you look at your grandparents, and you're like, they've done a lot in their life.
Yeah.
They have lived a lot of lives.
I think most people would feel that way about their grandparents, yeah.
They just need to sit down, go play with their grandkids, great-grandkids, and just chill.
Except not for politicians. Every single one of them should be in jail. Anyway, beyond the point, let's go on to the main topic.
Well, that was fun.
All right. So, Malachi, we'll go into your side of a construction view first.
So, again, we're covering between foundations and attic roof.
Your roof.
So, if you've got 1 story, 2 story, 3 story, 4 story, it was unheard of.
Yeah, because we are gonna do roofs in a separate part.
Yep.
I mean, there'll be like almost nothing for me, but
Yeah.
still construction wise, we can go into a bit.
And again, we're kind of powering through this because we do want to keep it simple.
Yeah,
There's so many different things that we can go into.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
we
we
just
could
wanna
go
keep it
really
simple.
deep into it, but like foundations is a big one because when you walk into, specifically those of you that have a basement, there's a lot of things to be looking at and looking for, especially because the basement houses so much of like, from a plumbing and HVAC perspective, it houses everything. From a construction perspective, it is what's holding the house up. So is it worth keeping the house? It depends on the condition of your basement. So yeah, so now we're going to do in between the two, top and bottom, and going over that. So I'll kind of do like we did last time, ask you some questions. So we're pulling up to the house. What are you now looking at if from the outside as far as what you see?
Yeah. So again, I'm gonna be obviously walk around the whole thing, but I'm gonna be looking for windows, doors, additions. Kind of the biggest thing is you can, with most homes, older homes that have additions, you can see the general idea of the house. It's usually square. A lot of them will call them like Sears homes
or ranch style, at least in our area.
Ranch style
is huge.
Yep, ranch styles is another thing too, and you can see kind of where it's like if it's a bump out, usually an addition.
Typically, yeah.
Yep. Now ranch style homes are just one level. There's no second floor. It's kind of like a trailer house, but actually a house. Those can be sometimes a little harder to see if there's additions. Sometimes they'll come off and then angle and then do like a garage. That could be an addition. Yep. Otherwise, they could just add on to it further. That could be a harder addition to see. But usually, if a ranch style home it bumps out, that would be an addition. Square homes, if you see like the roof line come down and then it changes direction,
the pitch, yep,
those would be additions.
Yep.
A lot of times, people have a porch, which then turns into a 3-season porch, which then turns into
a heated, cooled,
basically part of your home.
Yeah,
that could be another addition. So the reason I'm looking for additions is because now I want to see once I get inside, how well do they tie together? Or even from the outside, is it like the house is here and then the addition is just sagging off of it? Because
I feel like that's what happens to a lot of when people take that 3-season porch and turn it into a home.
Yep.
For whatever reason, I think it's because typically on a porch, the foundations aren't deep, and you'll just see the block or whatever they're using separating from the house, and the whole thing's kind of like settling.
Yep. Well, you have to realize when you originally put those footings down for a porch, sometimes they're just sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
But even if they were put in, when were they put in? And then on top of that, that was holding the weight of the porch. Well, now you're adding walls and a roof. And now you're adding sheetrock and insulation and
a bed
and all these different things. Else. So it's like the weight of it. But then again, footings don't last forever, especially on an outside system. So yeah, you're going to see it starting to sag down and pull away from the house because it's old, rotten, and carrying too much weight.
Yep.
So I want to just see for additions what there is. A lot with the windows and doors, you can't really tell a whole lot from the outside. It's more on the inside. But when I look at windows, I'd be like, okay, there's like 5-6 windows. And then when I get inside, if there's only 5, but I counted 6, where's the other window? A lot of times they just wall it off. And then siding, different types of that. You've got vinyl, which is the cheapest, most common. You've got LP Smart siding. You've got like a cement siding or mason siding. Hardy siding is a brand.
Yeah. Aluminum or steel.
Yeah, you got steel. You can have rock come up part ways, and then there's all sorts of different kinds of siding. But I just want to see the quality of it. If parts are broken off, if things are chipped, broken, then it could just be means for water. So again, when I get to the inside, now I can see where the water's coming from.
A big one, like when we bought our house, it was a brick house.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yep.
Ours was like Well, when we bought it, it was going to be turning 100 years old, right? So it was brick, and a big part if you're looking at brick is checking the tuck point. So that's the grout that's between each block. Ours had some patch tuck point done where they had regrouted different spots that really needed it, but we had looked at it, and had we kept the house, at some point the whole thing was going to need to be re-tuck pointed, which is pretty expensive.
The reason why that happens because we're up north, and whenever water gets in to anything and it stays because it can't get out, once it gets cold, it will freeze, and then it will start to expand and contract. And so then that starts to move your bricks up and down. And so when it's in the colder areas, that's why you don't see a lot of brick up north, or stucco is the same thing. Stucco is basically cement all over your house. Is once water gets in there and starts freezing, then it'll start popping things. So that's probably what happened.
Probably. Makes sense.
Water is just not a friendly thing with homes unless it's going through pipes, which is your thing. So that is probably, without touching on the roof, what I would be looking for. Just a quick in and out, because once I get on the inside, I might find something on the inside that points to something specific on the outside.
Yeah.
Which we can talk about as we go on.
What else? Going inside?
Yeah,
inside
I think we'll
now?
go on. Yep, go on the inside.
The inside, all right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So, what are you looking at as far as windows, doors, or you got additions? I suppose you're looking at if it matches up well. Floor height. Floor height tends to be the main thing. I see a big issue on.
Yeah. So, especially with porches, sometimes they can match, but usually with additions, that's another way to find if there's an addition. When you walk into a house and you walk into the front of the house and then you step up once you're inside, and then you walk further into the house and you're stepping up to another part of the house. Well, that would be an addition. And that could happen anywhere. They step down, step up again.
And sometimes it's not a step. Sometimes you'll just see it'll be like flat and then like big dip.
Because they didn't quite match it right. Or the house is settling and that isn't because it's different settings. So once I'm inside, again, additions aren't bad. I'm not like dissing additions. It's just that's where a homeowner thought it would be cool to finish it. Or a homeowner wanted to put something bigger on, or whatever it may be. And so it could just be a point where it's like, who did this? Was it professionally done, or was it just done by a homeowner because they wanted more space? So I just want to see, does it line up? Does it tie in well? Is things shifting? Are walls cracking? Are floor levels, like he's saying, different? Are they, the floor comes in, stops, and then the floor is a different direction? All these different things. Just pointing out, okay, this is clearly an addition. I'll look a little harder in those areas, but still, they could be perfectly fine. But I just want to see, just spend a little more time on the addition side of it. And some additions you might walk into that aren't even finished. And so that's another thing where it's just like, it's still not a bad thing, but if an unfinished room is tied to a finished room incorrectly, like some people, they won't even take the siding off of a home. They'll just put the board up, screw through the siding, fill it with foam or caulking, and then that's how they tied it to the house. Well, did they even hit studs? Did they, just different things like that. But yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell. Again, we're going to kind of try to go through it quickly. But then from there, I would want to look at my windows and doors.
For sure.
For mainly water damage, air leaks, install, was it done correctly? Do the windows work anymore? Because what you can actually find out with your windows and doors is if you have a door in your house currently that shuts great in the summertime, but horribly in the wintertime, it's because your house is moving. And this happens all over the place. Just because
at our house.
Ours too. We both have older homes.
Yeah.
So if and there's so many different kinds of windows. This is gonna be really hard for me to not like elaborate and everything. But there's tons of different windows, tons of different doors. You just want to see if they operate well. You want to see if it's drywall, if there's like stains and like the paint is starting to peel off. Well, it just means if water's coming in through the window.
Yep.
If it's not a vinyl window or a wood window, which wood could mean older, but if it doesn't look like a newer window, it probably is going to leak. The energy isn't going to be very good. There's a gas called argon gas that they fill in windows that helps protect the newer windows. And you can kind of tell when it's a double pane.
Yeah, single pane, double pane.
Yep.
Most single panes have like the storm windows on the outside. Like the old school storm windows.
Yep.
And then
because it's just like hail damage is going to take that more flexible storm window.
Yeah. And
it can take that where a single pane is
explode.
Yeah. I mean, that's in the movies, the baseball goes through and just breaks everything. And so it's just looking to see, because that tells me work has been done. They're trying, it's going to be more efficient because of the new windows.
And that all depends on, and I say this from the lumberyard standpoint, depends on brand. Mm-hmm. It's a huge part of that, because if you can too, and you're like, hey, I see that maybe it's new windows or depending on the existing windows, if they're newer, they're the double pane, then usually if it's like a slider or a crank out, there's like a label there as far as the brand. Take a picture of it and then go check it out at home and just see where, usually I'm sure I haven't tried it, but I'm willing to bet that there's a scale in there as far as who are the top brands, who are the mid-tier, low-tier.
Well, and there's brands that service all over, and then there's a ton of local brands.
Yeah, they're more like tri-state or quad-state subject. Like for us, a big one is Marvin.
Yep.
And Anderson, I think.
Anderson
tends to be a little more.
Anderson is more
national.
Yeah, I would say from what I know,
from what I've seen.
But it's so hard to justify. But yes, like he's saying, you can in your area you can see a variety of windows.
So like out of the lumberyard, we have this brand called Gherkin, and they make like the what is it? Vinyl type windows, right? Most people did garage, but they had nice, like for homes. It was just a cheaper option than say the Marvins, which are the wood ones and quite expensive. Yep. But they were like the best, like mid-tier window you could get, right? And then Anderson made a really budget tier. I think it was called JW, and they sucked. It was like a vinyl window, but
it's not the gelled one, is it?
No, it's not gelled one. It was like, I think it was like JW or something.
It might be JW.
It was poopy.
Yeah. Well, and the thing with Anderson is they're so high priced.
Yeah. So they tried to make like this really low brand and be like, oh, here's our entry model, and you're like, no, get rid of that.
Yeah. So it's one of those. It can be, and there's so many different brands. I mean, there's windows that I like to use, but I'm still open to trying other windows. And sometimes you just go to your local lumberyard and just hope to trust them. Yeah. And they can be pretty specific. Like most lumberyards will tell you, do you want cheap? Do you want reasonable that everyone else is using? Or do you want expensive?
Yeah. And I think the best way to go about it to figure out, like, if they're being honest, would be going and be like, well, I'm not sure yet. We're trying to get a feel. Can you show us from your top end to your low end and show us why one is what? And then we'll talk prices after. And then at least you're going, okay, well, I got an honest viewpoint from here's the top ends, here's the low ends, and now once I find out the prices, I can determine what I want to do.
Yeah. So, there's, again, so many different segments that we can go into. Again, if you want to learn more, put it in the comments. We can go in depth on anything we talk about. But again, we just kind of want to lead you in the right direction when you're buying a home. These are more... Basically, what we've been talking about is big red flag, like just whoa, don't. Like if the windows are leaking. If you're looking to buy a home, that's what we're mainly focusing on.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're looking to flip a home, that's going to be a different situation because you can take anything crappy at a reasonable price, turn it nice, and flip it. But this is more for... You're renting, you want to buy a home, or you're moving, you want to buy a home. just kind of stick away from these, because we don't want you to have to put all this kind of money into a home because you just skimmed right over it. So the other part,
Yeah, because then you got, let's see.
yeah, so I've got flooring. There's all sorts of different kind of flooring. I'm gonna kind of cruise through this just because of time frame. Flooring, you've got hardwoods, you've got carpet, vinyl, linoleum, tile. Really, there isn't much pros or con. It all depends on how it was installed.
Yeah,
in everything. You can have really good linoleum. It is a durable drop stuff floor, but it's one of those, like, it's out of style. Everyone's putting in like the vinyl clicking floors and everything. They're cheap, they look nice, they go over everything, and you don't have to glue them down. Because for some reason, they thought taking hardwood floors and gluing linoleum down onto them was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, well,
but that's just me. I really like, hardwood floors, and you're not probably going to find painted cabinets in a home I would build.
Right.
But anyway, so that's the floors. There's, again, really no pros and cons. If your floors are like popping or buckling, it's just installation issues. Water could be getting underneath there somehow. Carpets aren't too bad when they're difficult to clean, like truly clean. There's a whole carpet cleaner, but really it's just leaving water underneath. So it's one of those, if the carpet's bad, pull it and maybe just look at putting another floor down.
Yep.
So really, when it comes to floors, you're not going to have too much issues. Pulling hardwood floors is difficult, so don't walk in and be like, oh, I'm just going to pull the floor and put something different down. It's like, hardwoods are a little more difficult. Linoleum, try to go over it. Pulling linoleum is an absolute pain because of the glue. And then tile, things can just pop. Again, that could just be insulation issues.
Yeah.
But there's so many pros and cons to a lot of them. I grew up with carpet. I'd wrestle around on the floor with my dad. It was just this fun, like, beat up, throw down, all that kind of stuff. It's comfortable. Yeah, rug burn. Where hardwood floors, getting thrown down on that,
not so fun.
Not so fun. But my wife likes hardwood floors because of cleaning purposes.
Yep.
But she is also like, let's just throw down an area rug.
Right.
And then you can wrestle, play around on that. It gets dirty, throw it away.
Yep.
So, it's pretty decent.
And there's also the one part I would say quick with hardwood floors is you come in, you're like, oh man, these look like crap. There's a certain level, depending on what kind of hardwood floor it is, you can sand it and refinish it, and then you have a perfectly good, there's no reason to tear it up.
Yeah.
And sometimes people look at it and they're like, oh, it's peeling, it's gross, oh gosh, we're going to rip it out and put new down. It's like, no, that's fine. It's actually really, really high quality, because that, especially if you're going in an older house, I guarantee you that hardwood flooring is going to be 10 times better than whatever new stuff they put in.
Yep.
Right? And they might be like, well, I don't like the look of it. That's the great part about sanding it down. You can make it whatever you want, and if you want to make it rustic looking, like some people like that, the kind of part of the new thing is like the barnwood look.
Oh,
you know, you can go and beat it up and then stain it. It looks flipping awesome.
So that's something that I would like to do, but staining hardwood floors can be difficult.
You want to do this before you move.
You take a 3/4 inch thick hardwood, almost all of them are, and I mean you can sand that thing.
Yeah.
Probably
you can usually
20 times before you would actually question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of the longer lasting floors.
Like an oak floor.
Your foundation will start to give way before your hardwood floor will.
Yeah.
And that means things are starting to settle and your hardwood floor is starting to heave, and then it makes it look bad. It's starting to split. It's starting to, but that's because your house is basically.
That'd be the only reason where you're like, oh, we gotta fix something.
Yeah.
But you want to do ceilings, patio doors, really?
Yeah. So I'm going to look up the walls, see what kind of material it is. Is it plaster, which is basically a whole bunch of wood and then cement plastered into it, and then they paint it, which then gets to be covered by panels. If you see that your wall is this gross panel that is in all the homes, is usually plaster behind it. And what happens is the plaster starts to peel, and they don't want to tear it all down and then re-sheetrock. So they put the panels up to prevent it, which it does help, but it doesn't keep it from falling down. So then your panel wall starts to blow out, and then you can go hit it and just hear your wall just.
Yeah.
That's plaster.
One cool thing, if you get plaster and it's in good condition, you can hang a picture like literally wherever you want with no problem.
Wow.
You can hang a shelf. You can literally, because as long as it's the lath, the old school lath, you can put up whatever you want, wherever you want without a worry.
Yeah, so if you don't know what it is, you've got 1.5 inches of lath that's wood, that's 1/4 inch, and it just runs
the length of the wall.
Yeah, vertical, the entire length of the wall.
No,
or horizontal, the entire length of the wall. And then in between is like 1/4 inch, and that's where like the mud sits. So it's you have wood like everywhere.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But you have to be careful if you're going to take a nail and go pounding through. You'll pound the plaster on the backside out.
Yeah, you'll hear like
just
all the way down. Like
drywall. I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell what it is.
Yeah.
Usually, if it has like the orange peel texture and it's painted, it's going to be drywall.
Yeah.
You can. I mean, for me, I can tap on a wall and I can tell the difference.
Yeah.
Just by sound and feel. But what I'm looking for is cracks. If you have cracks that are like going like this, it's going to be plaster. The only times that your drywall would crack is on the seam. So it'd be perfectly up and down, left and right. It wouldn't be like a angle of any kind.
And I think what's important to note there too, though, is some people look at that and be like, "Oh no, it's cracking. The house is settling." No, it can actually just be a terrible mudder. That has done the job.
The mud was not mixed correctly. It was not sanded or applied correctly. It was too dry when it was applied. The tape, like it might look like it's cracking, but it's actually the tape is just peeling loose because he didn't get enough mud behind it. There's a lot of ways.
So don't panic and be like, "Oh no, the house is falling apart. I can't buy it." It's like no. Like the house is super sound. It just depends because, like, honestly, the guys that do good mud and taping, I mean, you almost argue, like, I mean, when you hear, like, sometimes what they get paid, you're like, wow, that's expensive. And then there's, like, a level you're like, you don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
Because there are very few who do amazing work.
If you have a house that has no texture on it, and there's orange peel, there's all sorts of different types.
Pretty much just roller.
Yeah. But yeah, if you don't have a texture on your home and you can't see a seam, that was a professional.
Yeah.
Professionals can do mudding and taping. The whole reason they do texturing is because they can't hide
imperfections.
Yep. And that's why the texturing is there. Yep. So if you have a smooth wall, like I know the drywall guy that's done your place. I actually worked with him.
Yeah, like my mom and dad's.
Yeah, your parents' place. And it's smooth walls. It is amazing, but he has really nice tools.
Very good.
All right, so looking at the walls, going up to the ceiling again can be plaster or drywall. If you've got the popcorn ceiling, most likely it's going to be plaster.
Yeah.
But then it could be drywall. Again, you're looking for the same cracks. Plaster will just start to kind of peel down and bubble down and just fall down in different flakes, and that just could be time settling, all this kind of stuff. Again, drywall, you're looking for the same cracks. House isn't falling down, just the same issue.
Discoloration on the ceiling means water leaks, obviously.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the other thing is you're looking for stains specifically in drywall. Plaster isn't going to stain in a way that you would see it.
Yeah.
As the same as drywall.
That's the one thing. Like when we get into the attic part, we'll talk about different ways to find leaks. But when we had our plaster house, we did not realize that there was a leak when we first got there from the chimney, the old chimney, until we'd been there for a while. And we started looking at it. I'm like, something about that looks different. And I poked it with because they had done the popcorn to cover up the old plaster. I poked it with like the broom handle. A big piece like fell down. I was like, oh, not good.
Yeah. So the water will start to break down the plaster, but it's not going to stain it.
Yes.
And so with those stains, you look at the windows, like I said before, that's where you would see stains, or up in the ceilings, and you're like, there's a stain right there. So if you have a second floor above you, it's probably a water line.
Yeah, like a bathroom or something.
Yep, but if it's a ceiling, then it could be a roof leak, it could be a chimney leak, it could be just a whole,
host of things.
Yeah, there's different, but stains means it's drywall, which means it could be easier to fix, but you have a leak. So just look for stains that way. And And then I looked at patio doors. This is one of the... I actually broke into a friend's house. If they ever listen to this, it's really funny, and they know I did. But I broke into their home because I had, when I was in school, had just installed a patio door, and I learned all about them and how easily it is to improperly install a patio door. So I'm talking like your slide patio doors.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole system, when you go to close it, it's got that little latch, and it's got this little hook that pulls out. So you can either install it where it hooks on the top or where it hooks on the bottom.
Mm.
Patio doors are supposed to be, where you go to close it and it hooks on the bottom. The reason why is because if you go hook on the top, how you get a patio door out is you pick it up and then pull it down. And there's wheels on it, so you adjust the wheels down so it falls. And if, depending on how it's installed, if it's not installed square, level, plumb, all this kind of stuff, you have room. And so you adjust these wheels to keep it to slide well. But when you adjust it down, you take the door, you pick it up, it's got extra room in the top, pick it up, pull it out, and then the door's out. So if you take your hook, because I know how these work, and instead of hooking it on the bottom, you hook it in the top, you can lift the door up just enough where it's over the hook, and then you can slide the door open.
So if you're listening to this and you have a house that has a patio door, check your hook, because if it's the wrong way, Malachi just told the entire
so many people how to break into your home.
How to break into your home.
The easiest way to do it is take a block and shove it in between the door and the fixed glass. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yep.
But, it's one of those, the biggest doors to leak air, water, the sealants break on them all the time, the handles can break. They're super nice, but if they're not installed correctly, they can be chaos. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's where water can come into your floor, and if you have certain floors that cover the main wood, like if it's carpet, click-in floors, some vinyl, or linoleum, but most linoleum is glued, but if it looks like your linoleum's kind of bubbled or loose, then there's water coming through. Mm-hmm. So you just got to be careful with your patio doors. So I just want to see how they operate. Are they going to seal nice? Is it going to just be a problem where in the winter, like the house that we're in, this patio door is horrible. Mm-hmm. And so we have to like plastic wrap the entire door, and we get snow that sits in between our house and the patio door.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's horrible. So it's just one of those, they're not easy to replace. They're not cheap. They're not fun.
Yeah, for as much as they really cost, nice. You feel like they would be designed in a better fashion.
Well, and this is the whole thing too. Just like we talked about varieties in windows, there's varieties in patio doors in quality. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get the cheapest patio door because they're already expensive, and you're going to put that into your home and have that many more problems.
Yeah.
So when you get to the expensive, it's just like there's a reason it's expensive because the seals last. But yeah, I really got to cruise through this. Kitchens, you can tell by the age of the home if they're fixed units or if they're built-in or built units. Units are like you can see lines in between each one. Built-in is the boards run all the way across. The shelves are all the way across. You can reach into one and grab stuff out of the other. That's all built-in. Mm-hmm. I want to look at bathrooms and bedrooms. I'm looking for layout in homes. Like, does the garage entry door come into the kitchen? So as soon as you grab the groceries out of your car, you're directly into the kitchen instead of having to walk all the way around. Bathroom locations, are they close to the bedrooms? Are they, how many are there? Because that can up the value of a home. Or, again, if I look at a home and like, oh, there's only one, I could put another one in here. So later on I could sell it for more than what it's worth. Mm-hmm. 2 bathrooms, any size bedroom or amount of bedrooms is, it really doesn't matter on that side. Mm-hmm. Just trying to cruise through it. Okay, I do want to touch on, before we go into main minute, load-bearing walls. When you first walk up to the home, the gable end is, you look at a home like this, and then this is all siding, your roof goes down like this. That's called the gable end. If you have it where, like, you see the roof come down, and the roof come down on this side too, that's a hip roof, which means that the load is going in various directions. But the majority of your roof, if it's like this out to your walls, these walls are load bearing. So just think of it, bottom of the triangle, come down, that's load bearing. When you walk into your home, any wall that's parallel to these outside ones are load bearing walls. Almost all of them. Specifically the center wall. Any wall that is next to your stairs on both sides are load bearing walls. Do not touch those walls. Just get a professional unless you know what you're doing.
As far as if you're looking to renovate the home.
Yes. But it's just one of those, or if like you see that there's a big span in between, because sometimes you can see like this is the center wall, this is the center wall, and then there's like a beam or what looks like a beam above. Well, then someone probably knew what they were doing.
Yep.
But yeah, so just kind of looking to see where the supports are, because all the load has to transfer all the way down to the basement. So you just want to make sure. Yeah, I mean, it's stairs, obviously going up to the next floor because each floor is going to be the same. But once you get up the steps, stairs can vary. You can have the super short, narrow, but really tall steps. Most of the time, your stairs are going to be fine. Ways that they've built them, I mean, stairs have lasted just as long as the homes have. So you really don't have to worry about too much of your stairs. If they're squeaking, a lot of that means the house has shifted, which means the stairs have shifted and moved, nails have popped loose. You can resurface, pull all the treads, put new ones on, risers, same thing. So really, you don't have to worry too much about stairs. But yeah, once you're, I mean, the home, if you're looking at an older home, it's been there for a while. You don't really have to worry about it too much. It's just little things where it's like, I don't want to replace my floor, or I don't want to have to replace windows. So maybe just kind of look at the next house or negotiate and just say, hey, I kind of saw that the windows are leaking. I already know I'm going to have to put, $15,000 into all these new windows. Then it might be like, could we negotiate prices a little bit, that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's go.
Man.
That's so hard for me to just cruise over that stuff.
Like I said, you had a lot. You had a lot in your stuff.
Man minute. What you got, Skyler? Since day one, he's been dying to do this. But we keep meeting in the morning, so we can't drink this for coffee.
All right. So, right, we've talked about, I guess me and you, right? I don't know if any of you have seen these spiked lemonades, right? So the thing that
Simply Spiked.
Oh, Simply Spiked. Yes. Anyway, what I was talking about one day is how, because I think the first time we had this was at like a birthday party for my sister's boyfriend, and I was like, man, I wish it didn't look so gay to drink one of these. and I was like, why is that? I'm like, if you take lemonade, it's lemonade. There's nothing wrong with that. And
Think of like Psy from Duck Dynasty.
Yeah.
Always has
a lemonade.
Yeah, his oh no, it's sweet tea. Sorry.
Okay.
But still.
But even lemonade, right? Yep. Lemonade, nothing wrong with that. And you got alcohol. That's manly. Nothing wrong with that. But all of a sudden you put the two together, and it's like instantly gay for some reason, as far as how some people have viewed it. Well, Twisted Tea has kind of hit a thing where they're like, oh yeah, it's alcohol, that's okay, you're cool. But you're like, oh.
I think it's more like in the back of your mind as a man, where it's just like whiskey, bourbon, just
I gotta have the hard liquor. Yeah. And I don't know, for some reason, like, I have to just tell myself, I'm like, I don't care, this is really good. Yeah. And they are. Depends on the variety pack, because this is the peach variety pack.
Yes.
These ones are good. You get the, I don't know, what's the other one?
It's an actual like lemonade variety pack. So it's so obviously you guys can see it if you show yours here. There's
must be 21 or older to drink this.
Yeah, 21 or older. Be responsible. I can talk on alcohol and everything, but show them yours.
Oh.
So there's peach, and then there's peach mango.
Yep.
So in the other, there's also peach strawberry. Peach kiwi. But in the other lemonade pack, it's lemon and strawberry, lemon and
watermelon.
Yeah,
Watermelon's
watermelon,
kind of,
blueberry,
blueberries,
and then
not that
lemon.
great.
Yeah, so there's 4 different flavors in each one. But
Lemon's
we
terrible.
found peach is
Peach.
super
The peach variety pack is golden.
Yeah,
it's manly. Anyway.
Yeah, well, and that's the whole reason we were, especially you wanted to bring it up, where it's just like, I told them, I'm like, okay, think about it. You go to a restaurant, and you don't even really like beer all that much. You like the more sweeter.
I am a cider.
Yes, yep.
Angry Orchard, Reds.
So
whatever. I am not a dark ale person or even a light beer person, really.
You think about it.
So
like
I'm
margaritas. Would you drink a margarita?
Not in public.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. So you're going out to eat, and you're looking at the menu, and you're just margaritas or daiquiris or just all these like nice, sweet, but for some reason in the back of your mind, feminine drinks.
Did you ever watch How I Met Your Mother? Probably not.
No, I've seen different things like that.
If you've watched How I Met Your Mother, one of my favorite parts in that show is Marshall and they end up at this gay bar. And he's always like, why is it always frowned upon if a guy wants like a girly drink, like a fruity drink? And they end up at a gay bar, and he's like super psyched because he gets all these fruity drinks because he's like, yay! And then they go back to the apartment, and he goes and he makes himself a fruity drink, and he walks out with it, and his wife Lily is like, oh, you made me a drink, thanks, babe. And he's like. He like hands it to her, like goes and sits down all sad because he's like thinking he got that one for himself again. Yes. But anyway,
so it's just that idea. It's like in the back of your mind, it's just like, and I have a friend the same way. It's just like he asked me, we're sitting down, and he's just like, "Do you order like margaritas and stuff?" I was like, "Not really." But they're really good, aren't they? I'm like, yeah, they are good. Like, my wife will order one, and I'll be like, hey, can I have some? Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
Like a pina colada or something.
And then, no, I can't order one.
I think if you're like in Mexico, it's not frowned upon, probably.
No, because they don't care. America just paints whatever picture they want just because for fun of it. But yes. Right. So anyway, you're manly no matter what. And just drink a nice drink.
No. You're a man if you're a man.
But drink responsibly. And I'll actually we should talk about that because it's still the same way, like you said, thou shalt not kill, or the love of money is money is the root of all evils.
Yeah, we should do a bunch of that.
Yeah, so it's just different takes on what you learn. Yep. But anyway, so
all right,
man approved, stamp it, manly, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right, Skyler, moving into you because we have all the time in the world.
Yeah. We're actually overtime, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Our toilet talk ran a little long. So anyway.
All right, Skyler.
Back
to your wife found the house.
Yep.
You're out of the foundation, and you're back outside. What are you looking for?
Well, from a plumber standpoint, there's, we kind of already talked about. I mean, dryer vents would be the one thing, just because I'm looking at location and obstructions. I want to be sure it's on the roof. I think we talked about that in the last one, even with basements, because it just depends. Sometimes your washer and dryer system's in the basement, and sometimes it's upstairs. So, I'm looking at that because then once I get in the house and I determine what floor the dryer is on, is going to determine a few things, and we'll get into more of that. So that's really all I'm looking at from the outside. Oh, and sorry, I lied. Hydrants, wall hydrants specifically. So because there's specifically we use a brand called Woodford hydrants, and the reason we use them, it's got like a greenish tan handle.
He's colorblind, so he doesn't know.
Yeah,
it's probably purple.
It could be. Anyway, but the reason we use them specifically is because if we can replace the guts, right? So that's the beauty of it.
Oh, that screw that's in the handle?
Yeah, so the screw that comes out of the handle, there's a rod that comes out with the gasket, and we can replace all of that. And the beauty to that is because if you have like a finished basement on the inside, or if it's sometimes people will build it into a wall, right? And so you got to open up a wall on the inside if you want to fix it.
Yep.
Right? And so that gets really expensive. But if it's like, oh no, it's this brand, I can just replace the guts and I'm good to go, it's significantly cheaper and you don't have to ruin anything. So if it's like a leaky hydrant or whatever. So that's kind of all I'm looking at on the outside. So now we get inside. Then it's kind of the same thing, right? With faucets, toilets. What else have I got in there? Specifically, let's start with those faucets and toilets, and that's same for sink faucets and sink, obviously sink, kitchen, bathroom, and showers. I'm looking at the hardware that's in there, right? And specifically brand, because it's that same thing. Like the good brands, the ones that we use, is going to be Delta and Moen. Main reason being, same thing. You can replace the guts. If it's a little leaky, right, or there's something wrong with the handle, you can usually replace the guts to those, and then you have a perfectly good faucet.
So, like a Moen at Menards or like the big box store?
That's debatable. Technically, yes. All right, so technically, yes, regardless of where you get it, if it's a Delta or a Moen, you can replace the guts. The biggest thing you will notice is if you get one from like a high-end retailer and then like
Big
Menards or big box store, and you literally hold them in your hand, one will be like the big box store is going to probably be like 30% lighter because they're not using high quality products. They're using plastics and polymers and different components on the inside.
So with sinks, what's the biggest issue with parts that break?
I would say a big issue is going to be, well, I mean, the biggest issue you're going to have is going to be water quality, right? Like a huge thing that breaks on sinks, specifically kitchen sinks, is pullouts. Like if you have a sink that's a pullout, you know, it's got the hose. Those we replace those all the time, right? And usually because of like where we live, our water, like in the country, our water quality is so poor, and then the surrounding towns around us have very low quality water. We're replacing like faucets often because they just corrode and eat them up and they're just destroyed, right? But like specifically kitchen sinks, the pullouts are like the first thing to fail every time. And then if we're not replacing it, it's usually we are pulling the screen off and cleaning out the filter on the, you know, the water.
Right on the faucet.
Right on the faucet. So that's why I'm looking at brands, and specifically why I like Delta and Moen is because their customer service, they have a lifetime warranty on the product, and dealing with their customer service is way easier than like all the other brands. We used to really like Kohler, but they changed a bunch of things, and you can get them fixed, but there's like a ton of hoops to jump through. And if you're without a sink faucet, you don't want to be arguing with the guy on the other end of the phone, you know, for forever just to get your faucet replaced if you only have one bathroom. So anyway, so I'm looking at brands. And like I said, for Delta Moen, that's the same. Like I don't care if it's mismatched, you know, Delta Moen throughout the house. That's just what I would prefer to see. The okay brands, like I said, Kohler and American Standard. American Standard is, I would say, a lower quality than Kohler, but I just don't like it as much. Or I put Kohler on the same level just because of their customer service has been a little poopy in our experience with it. And then bad, like these people picked from the bottom of the trash can when they were fixing up the house, is going to be like Tuscany and Pfister. I don't know how to say it. It's got a P and an F, so it's really confusing. But they're really, really cheap. They look nice initially, but you're not replacing guts. When that thing goes bad, you're ripping it out and you're putting in a new one because that thing is a hunk of junk. It's not even a paperweight because it's too light to be one. So they suck. But so that's what I'm looking at, sinks and faucets, and same with like shower stuff. The other thing is finishes. So like I would look at it because that's going to tell me the quality of the water within the house. If they have like let's say oil rub bronze, which is the dark finish, they look really cool.
Mm.
But if there's white speckles all over it, either one, the water quality is really bad, or something's wrong with their softener if they have one. So it's like, oh, okay, well, we got an issue there. And if it's corroding, you got other issues, and you're going to want to have it like the water tested to see like, what do I need? Do I need a softener? Do I need an iron filter? What do I need to get the water not destroying everything in the house, right? Because it's going to ruin your clothes and stuff too. Like you run your washing machine, all that. It's going to eat it.
So my question is, when you first walk into a home, what is the first thing you as a plumber would go to on the first level? Like, would it be a bathroom because you walked past it, or would it be
I'm following my wife, so the first place she's probably going to go. It depends on what door you come in, but she's going to be attracted to the kitchen because that's where she spends most of her time.
Yep.
So I'm going to be checking that stuff out right away.
Okay.
But then obviously, and this deals with the same with toilets, I'm going to test, turn on the sink, and I'm going to check I think we talked about, some of the plumbing. I want to be sure that I'm going to turn on the sink, I'm going to flush the toilet. If I'm in the bathroom, I'm going to turn on the sink, the shower, and flush the toilet, and I want to see if anything bubbles, because that tells me if everything's vented properly or not. Because if I get a bloop bloop out of the toilet when I go to flush, while the sink and the shower are running, I have an issue with my venting. Same like I talked about with the plumbing before. If I flush the toilet, does my water get scalding hot? Right? Be like, okay, my pipes are really small, so I don't, heads up to the person in the shower when someone flushes the toilet, whatever it be. But I also just want to see if, what's my water flow, how well does, and then if I flush my toilet, am I getting any leaking around the toilet? Like, oh yeah, they cleaned up everything before we came in, but now when I flush the toilet, I get water at the base. And then I'm also going to sit on the toilet, not like to go to the bathroom, but like put the lid down and just kind of sit on it and gently shift my weight and see if the toilet rocks. Because if that's shifting, it means I'm going to have an issue at some point with something there. So I just want to make sure that everything's good to go, squared away. It also could mean that from a carpenter standpoint too, if the toilet shifts a lot, if there's been a lot of leaking, the subfloor below the toilet could be completely shot, just like mush.
Especially if they have like the linoleum right up to it and the toilet's caulked in and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a big kind of red flag. If there's caulking around the toilet, it might look nice, but it's a bad thing because any leaking that's going on within the toilet, you have no idea. It's trapped.
Yep.
And
until you see a wet spot in your basement or your toilet falls through.
Yep, exactly. So I'm looking at that. But same with the toilets, I'm looking at brands. The ones that we really like is going to be Gerber and American Standard. Same thing with both of those. I can swap out the guts. If it's not flushing right or something's sticking, I can take it apart. I don't even have to remove it from the stand, right? I can just pull the tank bolts after I drain the water out and replace all the guts in it, put it back on, and I've spent at the absolute most, if I do it myself, $100 in, not even, probably $50 in parts to completely rebuild it, as compared to the $300 to $500 for a good toilet to replace it, just me, not paying an installer. The OK ones, again, Kohler, it's a good toilet, and you can replace the guts because those guts are really easy because you can kind of go to the hardware store and just pick them up. Typically, they'll say Kohler on them, and you just have to match the one with the toilet you have. They're just expensive. They have this weird tri-screwed gasket that goes on the bottom, and I think the last time I fixed one of ours at a different rental we had, and that was I think it was $40 for the gasket. I was like, are you kidding me? Where if I'd had an American Standard or a Gerber, it'd have been $6 or something, I'm like, this is dumb. Anyway, then and then Toto and Crane, they're kind of okay. You can usually get parts to match up with them for the most part. The bad ones are Mansfield, which is primarily out of Menards. So you Menards people, the Mansfields are no good.
But they're cheap.
They're super cheap. They usually work, but their biggest issue is once they go bad, you really can't take parts. If you try, I've had it where we've tried to do all new guts, and it just doesn't work.
So,
I don't know. It's bad.
Could you take an American standard guts and put it in a Mansfield?
Usually only the fill valve, you can kind of get away with that, but for some reason they're super sensitive to it and they don't always work. I don't know why. They'll fill, but I don't know. It's like once you mess with it, you ruin the whole thing. And so it's usually like if you need to put new guts in that, you like just pull the toilet, just ditch it. It's not worth going down the road of trying to fix it.
You just think because there's no parts in the waste part of a toilet.
Yeah,
it's all in the back tank.
Yeah.
So you'd think the tank has a hole where it drains, the water line where it fills. You just think that any part would fit.
One would think it would be pretty straight cut forward, but it's not. They're just a pain in the butt.
So just to let you know, if you're going to buy a cheap toilet and say, "Oh, I'm going to try
prepared to buy another one."
Yeah. So what about? So the hardest thing for you is you can't just walk around the house and be like, where's my water lines?
Yeah. So, what
about the hidden?
Yeah. So the next part that I'm looking at is the hidden stuff. So that's where your kitchen and your bathroom vanity, I'm gonna open the doors and look in there. And not only am I looking at the water shutoffs, because one, I want to see that there's a valve there, and I want to see that it's not from like the 1800s. I want to see that it's like a quarter turn one where it's just boop, quarter turn off, right? The other thing is I'm looking for corrosion around that, because if there's like a ton of lime buildup around it, it means that I pretty much have a leak there. But that lime and scale, if you see that, don't touch it, because the moment you touch it, you're gonna have water. It's like, oh, what's that? Poke falls off. You're like, oh, look, water. So just let it be. But like the gate ones, where you like spin it like 18,000 revolutions and then it finally shuts and usually it doesn't work. You're like, I finally closed it. And you're like, I still have water.
After you cut the pipe
after
and the
you've done all that. Yeah.
Yep.
So I just want to see that it's a quarter turn, or they have like these oval shaped ones, but I just want to look at the overall condition and that stuff and see what's coming up, because that's the thing too, is I'm looking at what's coming up in that hidden cavity, because I might see copper here, but when I'm in the basement, I might see PEX, or I might see copper downstairs and then PEX coming up. So at one point or another, they've done work and replaced things, is what that means.
Okay. From what they could reach. Yeah,
and if there's no shutoffs, it's not the end of the world. Just the annoying part is if that faucet goes bad or something's wrong, you want to replace it or get work done, you have to shut off the whole house in order to fix that one faucet. Now you can't do laundry, you can't shower, you can't do anything until the faucet is back in. Same with the toilet, because we'll see that sometimes too, where there's no shut off for the toilet. So I want to be sure there's a shut off there, quality, condition, all that, and just looking at some of that stuff. What else? The drainage for under the sinks, same thing. I might have PVC downstairs, but they might have put a rubber Fernco on because there's galvanized or copper sometimes coming up. So I want to look at that. I want to make sure that there's a trap on there, and that the trap is not super cockeyed. I just had fixed one in a local town where I'm like, I can't believe this thing didn't just pop off and they have water earlier, because it was on there so cockeyed and holding on by like a thread that somehow they didn't flood their whole kitchen when they ran water.
So super quick for people that might not know, what is the trap and why is it shaped?
So the trap is, it comes off the sink, comes down an extension, and then there's a loop, and then now at least where we live, it's not supposed to be an S-trap where it comes down, loops up, and then loops down, and then goes straight down through the floor. That's technically illegal. I don't know why, to be honest. It doesn't make total sense. As long as it's vented, it's doing its job. Who cares? Anyway, it's supposed to come down, loop up, and then go through. And the trap is where the water is supposed to sit, and what the idea of that is it's creating separation from the gas. The water in there allows the sewer gas not to come back in to the house.
So basically the water level sits, and then once water in this pipe starts to fill, it fills this one and it just drains.
Yep. And then it just sits in the bottom of that U shape.
Okay.
And
so there's always water in
there. Should always be water in there. So if you go into a house and you're like specifically basements, and you're like, man, it smells like sewer down here, and you can go look in the trap. Like, that's the first thing we do, is if someone's like, I have sewer gas really bad in my house, the first thing we do is we go around and we check traps, because like older people that like never go down to their basement ever, right? Those traps dry out in the in the floor drains, and you just have to dump water back in there, and then it stops the sewer gas.
Dry it out.
Yep. So if you have sewer gas in your house, and you're like, I don't know why, but I never go in the basement.
Try
you gotta go check your traps.
Everything that has a trap.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's that, and then let's see, what else have I got?
Garbage disposals.
Yeah.
How much do you love garbage disposals?
I hate them. Mainly, I hate them because people think it gives them the right to shove and blend whatever they think they can down it, which you can't. You're incredibly limited as to what you can actually. They're not made for bone, right? They might say it in the commercial, but they can't.
It's a one-time use.
Yeah, it's pretty much like the scraps that are like the not even the scraps that are left on a plate. I don't know. Spaghetti is probably about the most dense material you can blend down it, and it can't be a plate full of spaghetti. It's got to be like a little bit. Anyway,
so they don't really do justice.
But
just fill up your trap.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, though, if there's one in there, I'm at least going to hit the switch and see if it works, right? Just because it's like, hey, it's in here, and if they're advertising that, hey, it comes with a garbage disposal, blah, 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 that's great, but it doesn't work because it doesn't look like you've used it or it's broke, whatever. So I'm just going to check that.
Okay.
And then we talked about dryer venting. So the big part there is, let's say if I find it outside, right, and it comes out the side of the house, and then I go in the house, and where that dryer vent goes out, the dryer is within like 10 feet of that dryer vent, in a relatively straight line, I'm happy. Let's say, and even if it's in the basement, it goes up and goes out, I'm happy. But let's say it's somewhere in the house, and the dryer vent is like clear on the other end of the house, right, or clear up through the roof, I'm not happy because that thing's going to plug, like guaranteed, 100%, and you're going to have to get some kind of snake or have someone come out, back it out, and run a snake down it, and then you can't put screws in dryer piping. So sometimes if people just run flex or they run piping and you can only tape the seams together and you go to clean it and that person is too aggressive, you can bust it all apart, especially if it's flex, it just shreds it. Yep. And they're like, it's clean. And you're like, no, this is just no pipe left, right? And then you have another host of moisture issues and problems. So the closer that the dryer is to the dryer vent, the better, right? And
less to build up.
Less to build up and less. And you want issues.
A hard
pipe,
not
flex.
The
more hard pipe, the better.
Okay.
So I mean, the more hard pipe, no longer than 10 feet is like perfect.
All right. So when you look at some dryers and you pull them out, obviously we're not saying you're doing this in your home, but you pull it out. There's that little bit of flex.
Yeah,
before it goes into hard.
That's fine because usually you got to crawl back there, tie it on, tape it on, and then push it back.
Okay.
Before it goes onto the hard.
Okay.
But I've been in basements where it like comes down through the floor, and then it's flex from where it comes through the floor all the way outside. And you're like, oh, well,
I've seen some of those.
And then you take it off, and it's literally full of lint, which is and the thing is too, a person has to realize with that is that's a huge fire hazard. Like when you get lint build up like that, like I've seen like these guys make these little survival sticks.
I use lint all the time to start my fires.
Yeah, you take the lint, but they'll do like like the what do they call it, like blackjack or whatever, bearded wax fire starter stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, you can make your own. You take lint and then you put hot wax in there, and then you and then it hardens and you have fire starters.
Yep.
And lint. Put them in a
lint is bag. You can light it. It lights really fast, but it burns slower than like if you were to do paper.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice little quick fire starter, and the wax just makes it go slower.
Yeah.
So yeah, huge fire hazard.
So,
or if you want to build a fire, you can use lint.
Yep. And obviously, if you find you're like, hey, here's my dryer, but I couldn't find a dryer vent anywhere, now you're concerned as to where is it venting, because we have been in places where you go up in the attic and you're like, oh, they're just like dumping the dryer vent up here.
I had one that I fixed just recently.
Yeah.
Where it was the wall, this window, because of an addition into the bathroom or into the onto the house. The window was the basement window, and so when you get down to the basement, you can see the flex duct all up and loop around and then out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get on the other side of the wall, the dryer's there, and it looks like the flex duct goes where it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
So when we tore into it, because I didn't like the flex duct, knowing because I've worked with his dad a little bit, we went to go pull that flex duct, and it went into one cavity, but it never made it to the window.
Yeah.
They literally just put it into a stud cavity.
Yep. They're blowing in insulation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, wow, this section of the wall is so hot and warm.
Yeah. That's, some of it's laziness, some of it's stupidity. But
yeah, I would say in this situation it was laziness.
Yeah.
Actually, it was the combination because we got to know more about the previous homeowner.
So anyway, that's kind of what I'm all looking at.
Not as much, just because.
Not as much, but really, like I said, a lot of it just comes down to branding and then testing each individual toilet, faucet, whatever it might be. I'm just checking, and like, because while the water's running, I'm checking the trap, make sure it's not leaking.
Yep.
When I open those cabinet doors, I'm looking at as long as it's not full, I'm looking at the base of that cabinet to see, like, is there water stains? Like, it's either had a severe leak or it had a leak.
Or they put a thin, you can look, like what's on here is actually just a 1/4-inch veneer. Yeah. And they could put those on the bottoms because we've had to do that with, like, this had water damage, it was fixed, they don't want to replace the cabinet, so you just put a nice little veneer down so you can look to see if.
Which is fine, as long as they realized that it was an issue and they went to correct it and made it right, you know. But I'm looking to see if there's any active issues.
So one more question before we move on. When you walk into a home and the faucet's dripping, does that mean I need a new faucet?
It may or may not. The first thing I'm going to do is just check the handles, sometimes twist them, because if I can, like, twist a little and it turns off, it means I just probably need a new guts in there.
Okay.
If it's one that I can replace guts on, because the rubber gasket's probably just shot, more than likely. So that's primarily what I'm checking. And if I, other than that, that would tell you if it's bad or not.
Okay. And would that be, like, guts on most everything? If you can replace it, you don't actually have to buy a new one. Like, if your shower head's leaking.
Yep.
Same thing?
Same thing. Like I said, as long as it falls into those higher end brands, Delta, Moen being the two that we really like. Kohler would be okay as well. Like I said, and Kohler is more. Like I said, Kohler is an issue if it's a warranty issue. If you're trying to warranty it. If it's just like, I need new guts in here, separate issue. But you're just not. So
it's nice to know that if you're walking to the home, it's just like he's saying, he's giving good brands. Look to see if it's leaking. If it's one of those brands, then you're like, I know that I can get the guts for it.
Yep, exactly.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
So is that about?
I think that's really about all I have left with all of that. So.
One more question. When you have in the sink, you've got 2 water lines.
Yep.
And then you have sometimes 1 water line.
Oh, yeah. So, like, if you look at, like, because you're talking specifically probably like kitchen sink.
Yep.
If you're in an older house and you see that, it's one of two things. Well, even if you're in a newer house, you'll come up and there's going to be another spigot at the sink. It's either going to be an RO system, which you would see in the basement or under the cabinet, right?
What's an
or
RO
somewhere,
system?
Reverse osmosis water. So it's drinking water.
Okay.
That's what they're doing. They're taking all the healthy minerals out, but also all the other poopy stuff. So
that they're putting into it.
Yeah, in a way, it's good because it's getting the junk out. But in the downside, it's also taking out the good stuff because, like, your body needs minerals.
Yep.
Yes. Because otherwise, if you're just drinking straight RO water, you're like, man, I'm thirsty. That's why, because you have no minerals that are actually helping. Anyway, but if it's just a different one and there's no RO system in there, it's hard water. So it's coming through before it gets to the softener or the other filters. It's just coming straight from the tap, And some people would say drinking water. If you live in a city that adds fluoride to it, it's poison. You're drinking poison, is what that is.
What fluoride's in my toothpaste?
It's poison.
It's not in my toothpaste, but it's in a lot of people.
It should not be.
So I just wanted to ask that question.
It should not be in anything you're drinking.
So
that can be a separate topic.
Yeah. So the hard water isn't the same as the sink water.
Nope.
The
hard water is gonna. That would be the thing to note too. Like if you look, so like I said, I was talking about the white specks on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That is a sign of hard water, right?
Oh, okay.
So if you go in the house and you're like, well, there's a softener in here, then there's something wrong with the softener, or it's cycle time or whatever, right? And you need to have someone come out. Usually the person that installed it, if the homeowner did it, then you just need to have a plumber come out or someone that specializes in that and test your water and go, hey, you need to do this to improve your water quality. Otherwise, if there's no water softener, that's why, is because wherever the water is coming from, it's of poor quality. So usually if you see like a hard water spigot faucet at your sink and a soft water one, the hard one will usually look really grungy and kind of usually.
Yep.
Again, all depending on the water quality.
Yep.
And then the good water one is okay.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this helps you guys.
Yeah. This one ran a little long.
Yeah.
We only got an hour and a half.
Did. Well, that's because we fit both carpentry and plumbing in one.
That was probably a mistake.
Yeah, instead of breaking up like we did last time.
I know.
So.
It's because we both won't shut up.
It's because we like to talk, and that's why we're having a podcast for you guys. Is literally our wives are like, we just need to record you guys. Yeah. But I guess we can just kind of jump into conspiracy. I'm actually happy it ran long because, again,
we don't have
you love conspiracy, and I just have to think about it.
You just don't know what you're looking for.
I don't know what I'm doing in my life yet. I have ideas, but
yeah.
How about I take yours and you can take mine?
The thing is, I'm not making any money off of conspiracies. I haven't figured out how to monetize that yet.
I'm working on it.
I'm not Alex Jones.
Trust me, I'll make money on conspiracy stuff. Just you wait.
All right.
Give me 35 years.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we're ranting.
Yeah,
we're going on a whole bunch of just nonsense. So really, we could spend another hour and a half on this.
This could be bad
if we don't shut up.
If we're not careful.
So let's just kind of be careful with it. Again, we're doing it in the evening time. This is a little different for us. My phone was almost dead. I got it charged up.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's still recording.
Maybe we should go double check it quick.
I'm going to go check it just to make sure.
I'll start into mine. Okay. So the first one that I'm talking about, if no one's fully aware of it yet, we're good? Okay.
Still recording.
Awesome. So we live in we live in Minnesota.
Man, why'd you give away our location? Now everyone knows.
The whole state.
We live in the entire state of Minnesota. We bounce around from basement to basement.
Pretty much.
We take this whole setup with us.
It's a lot of work.
You can believe us.
And we're slowly becoming a communist regime. I don't know. It's a joke. Anyway, so Minnesota, new school year, they passed a bill, if you hadn't seen, where...
Like a $1 bill or a...
No, it's not a new currency.
Oh.
But it's they are saying, well, it's a bill where everyone is paying for school lunches. And we're not the only state. There's, I think it's like Maine, California, Delaware. No state worth anything, but they all have it where they fully pay for school lunches for everyone across the board, regardless of income. And
so you're saying everyone, like, I'm not going to school, but it's coming out of my...
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like, I mean, for me and my wife, because we have one that's in school, right, we've made the life choice to homeschool. However, my tax money is still paying for these kids who are in school for their lunches. right? I'm not getting subsidized for my child to eat lunch at home, but I am paying for these other kids.
So you made the choice, because we have the choice,
Yep.
to homeschool.
Yep.
So you're not having someone else teach your kid. You're
Mhm.
not having them feed your kid. You're not having
Right.
them take care of your kid. But you still have to pay.
Yep. Yep.
And then on top of that, you have to pay for your kid
Yeah.
and shelter your kid and feed your kid.
Yep. I mean, imagine the frustration for people who have chosen private school. And so they're paying for the kid to go to school and paying for their meals. And now they're also paying for some other
Public
kids'
school
meal.
lunches.
And now what they argue is like, well, hunger's an issue in the state. And I'm not saying
That's because
we got
don't
a
know how to
lot of other issues.
grow our food.
Yeah. But more so, what frustrates me is the fact that we have other food programs. Minnesota has what's called the WIC program, right, which is for people with children to get specific, like, it's not a food stamp, but you get allotted a certain percentage to for that. Now, like, if my tax dollars fund that, right, that's fine. These are people who have an income level that is not justifiable for them to afford feeding their child, right?
Yep.
And what's also annoying is that it's also like those people already qualified for their meals to be paid for, right? So what I don't get is why, and what's so frustrating is, again, it's regardless of income across the board. We're paying tax money in to someone who might make $1 million and is choosing to send their child to public school, right? I'm still footing a bill to help pay for that child's meal. Now, from like a Christian standpoint, I'm like, no, like if there's a family that is making less than, let's say, $30,000 a year, right, and is having a hard time having ends meet, one, they already qualify for like school lunch programs for that child, or food programs through the state of Minnesota to give them funding to buy lunches for their child. Why then did we pass a bill that it's like a $388 million bill for like the fiscal school year or something? I forget. I should have had that pulled up. I know it's $388 million was the dollar amount. I think it's through 20. I know it's through 2024. I just forget when it ends there. But right, so we're paying for that. It just seems stupid to me. It's very infuriating to me that so like something else that me and my brother were saying. Sorry, because we listened to this on Communist Radio, NPR, and they were saying like, well, it's we were like, okay, well let's look at it this way, because you guys love killing babies, right? Let's say there's someone, because when we talk about abortion, they say, well, the whole reason for abortion for women is because children can be an extreme financial burden, right? So there's this huge financial burden for women, right? However, if you chose to have an abortion, you apparently, if you live in Minnesota, still have to foot a bill to pay for someone else's child. So now, because of this new law, this person who chose an abortion to murder a child is still having to be in a financial burden to pay for someone else's child, right? So I mean, if we're playing with their whole game, right? Obviously abortion is murder and is incredibly wrong and terrible. And in my point of view, if you're a doctor and you're performing an abortion, you have committed murder, and it is justifiable by death, the death penalty, to me, right? And in all honesty, if you're a mother and you have made that choice, just like in a murder trial, if you aided and abetted in the murder of an individual,
especially a child,
you are punishable by death. Right, in my opinion. So take it as you want, but that's how I view it. So anyway, that's a obviously totally separate part, and I say that because Minnesota, I think, constitution, put in our like state constitution, we protected abortion rights. It's gay, just angry.
What a world we live in.
Yeah, it's a crap show. What do you have?
Well, I'm kind of learning small little things here. Basically, the difference between me as a man and my rights and the government and their control. Just like we're talking, you know, with the entire idea of taxes and everything.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't choose for this specific tax, or I didn't, you know, and obviously there's votes on it, but it's like who's genuinely benefiting in all this?
Just the
know,
government.
And so it's just for me, going off of your whole, you know, lunch situation. The lunch that we had growing up, I was in public school and private school, and then homeschool. So I've been around. The lunches really haven't changed. Quality of it, I mean, it's not.
Well, if you haven't been in
little bits here and there.
I did a little bit of high school just for the motors classes. My mom didn't know to tell me what a motor was or how it ran, right? So we went in for egg
Certain
related
classes.
stuff.
Yep.
And that was when Michelle Obama did her, or Michael Obama did their whole food program.
Yeah.
Yeah, it showed.
So what I'm saying is, they're going to foot this cost.
Yeah.
Clearly, it was being paid for somehow
before
we all had to pay for it.
Yep.
So now, if the lunches aren't going to change, but we're paying more to it, who gets that money?
Yeah.
Because the food isn't getting more expensive. So it's just another dumb reason for them to take our money. So for me, there's so much that goes into this. Do your research, and I am the tip of the iceberg in this stuff. But it's the difference between jurisdictions, and you can't cross certain jurisdictions. Like a man, a person, human being cannot be in a contract with a corporation, a non-living being. And so just learning more about this stuff and what they've swindled us into has been very intriguing for me in the sense of what and why they're able to just literally take our money. So I will leave you guys with this to look up. But look what happened in 1933 when they took gold out of our currency. When we couldn't take a dollar and transfer it over to gold. Not buy gold, transfer it back into gold. They took that out. Just look into that a little bit. You're going to find stuff on YouTube, find stuff online. Just be a little open-minded about it. I'm still in the research of it, but just look into it and what happened. Because what I have heard so far, I can't say it's true, is once they took that money out, America was deemed bankrupt because we didn't have a currency. We just had paper. We had physical gold and silver that couldn't be made. And then they made these paper notes saying, I have this much gold and silver in the bank. I'm just not going to carry this much around with me. They got rid of that. So now all we have is paper, which doesn't do anything. You can make as much of it as you want. It's literally, if I tore this off, wrote a $1 bill and said, hey, this is my new currency. It's useless. So we were bankrupt at that time. So when you're bankrupt and you need money, you need collateral. So as a organization, if you, like, they don't have cars or businesses per se to give as collateral, they took us as human beings and used us as collateral. So if you feel that slavery has ended, you're paying taxes, so you're being lied to.
Mm-hmm.
Just look into it. Maybe at some point, as I dive more into this stuff, we can talk more about it, because it's kind of something I'm getting a little more passionate about, just in the sense of I already hate the government. I hate the government. So if you want to ban me, then that will just prove to the world that you should be hated. But just learning more about what they are doing to us as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these organizations and companies, it blows my mind. So kind of what I'm starting to learn more about. We can talk about it more as we go, just for time's issues. But yeah, do your research. Look at when Nixon took out the money or the gold from our money. They split it apart. Just start there and just see what you find.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm new to it. If you have stuff, leave it in the comments. That'd be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the idea the government's not going to help you. They're going to take everything that's yours. They're going to take your kids. They're going to take your money. They're going to take your rights. They're going to take your guns. They're going to take your house, whatever they want, if you're not complying. They will force you into homes. They will force you into doing vaccines. We're just being lab ratted across the world.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know that, it's
You're
time to
living
kind
under a
of
rock.
it's time to wake up, because it's not going to go well. They're just walking right over you. You don't comply.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't do any research on the COVID, and they're like, take the shots. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't freak you out at all.
Yeah.
So that's what I have. We'll keep it short, I guess. But did you have anything else?
I don't know. I can share on these other stupid things.
Again, this is his topic, so he rocks it.
Yeah. So one thing that, if everyone hasn't seen it, which, I mean, if you haven't, you're just missing out, apparently.
I probably haven't seen it.
Yeah. Well, I think I showed you. Mitch McConnell's freeze up.
Oh. Do I need to pull this up?
You don't. He's just staring off into nothing. First off, no one cares. Like, who cares? Like, they're all scumbags, and they all lie through their teeth every day.
Or through a blank stare.
You know, and both sides. That's why I say that, right? Remember when there was a 26 House Representatives that were like, we will not let McCarthy be Speaker of the House. We're going to fight this. I'm like, no, you're not. You're all going to fold like a pancake. Sure enough, before the day was out, they all folded. And McCarthy became Speaker. Yeah, and he sucks at his job. And then he's like, I will not, I'll come to a deal with Biden, but I will not let his stuff go through. Folded like a pancake. Biden got his way on the budget and all that crap. And now they're doing the stupid budget thing, like, whoa, they got till the end of the month, the time is ticking. Like, shut up. Everyone knows you're going to flip and pass a bill in the dead of night that's going to screw us all over again. Mm-hmm. But every time, it's like, seriously, the news organizations literally have nothing else to talk about besides Trump. And anytime there's a budget deficit or a budget issue, they're like, oh, time's ticking. Are they going to pass it in time? Yes. They do it every time in the dead of night at the 11th hour, and then it's like, oh, well, let's look at it. Oh, yeah, we got screwed again. Every time.
But they don't publicize it.
No, but it's just stupid. So anyway, Mitch McConnell, was staring off into no man's land. But the dumb part is that I hate about it, right, is, so, like, Chuck Todd, the freaking idiot, he's on MSNBC. His quote was, McConnell's freezes, because this is the second time, makes it a lot harder for GOP to criticize Biden's age. I'm like, okay, two things with this. One, first off, how disconnected are you from like the the political opposition, right? Like, dude, everyone that's a conservative has been saying for years how Mitch McConnell has to go. We're all in the same boat of Mitch McConnell sucks. Why does he keep getting back in there? Because elections are rigged and he was already planned to be in there, right? He's not getting voted in because he sucks. Everyone hates him, but somehow he keeps ending up back there, right? And so it's like you're incredibly disconnected from the Conservative Party, right? Like, no, we're all saying Mitch McConnell's got to go. We all said, yeah, we need term limits because this is why. He's way too old, and so is Pelosi and everyone else, right? 90% of Congress. Mm-hmm. 2, like, are you flipping kidding me? This is the same thing that they did with BLM, right? In the sense that, Mitch McConnell froze up, they can't criticize Biden. It's like, dude, Biden freezes on a daily. You literally have to hide him from the press because he will either crap his pants or say something stupid and racist or just non-verbal, right? And they're like...
Or just walk off the
stage. Right, or just wander off into nowhere. And you're like, what the heck just happened? Right? But they did the same thing with BLM where they talk about like BLM and all these things. And you're like, has everyone forgotten that they literally burned down cities and rioted? Right? But no one talks about that. They're just like, oh yeah, the BLM and whatever. And you're like, dude, they literally burned down cities. How did we forget that this organization was part of one of the greatest terrorist acts ever, and we just let it slide? But they're doing the same thing. They're just like, oh, look at McConnell over here. And you're like, dude, I can see Biden. He's right there looking off at a butterfly. Mm-hmm. Like, what are you talking about? Mm-hmm. It just drives me nuts.
This is the thing that I don't understand is common sense. Like your dad says, common sense isn't common.
Right.
And how can you look at the people that are running the country and be okay with it?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's the people that, well, like you said, that how we're brought up nowadays gives us no concept of common sense and what we're taught. And then it's just follow what they say, comply.
Yeah.
And so when they get to, and nowadays, especially with the phones and social media and all this kind of stuff, so many people are glued to their phones, and the attention span of people is so short. They could literally watch Trump and be like, oh, I'm going to vote for Trump. And then boom, a little Biden thing comes up like, oh, I'm going to vote for Biden.
Yeah, no, it's literally like...
We don't have opinions and things anymore. No. Well, and like you said, it's all rigged anyway. And the more I learn about it, it's definitely true. It's a lie of we get the idea of who we get to vote for, but why is it that you have one person on each side, and when one person goes in, they don't really do anything different than the other person goes in?
Yeah, no, you look at the Patriot Act, right? I think they passed this TikTok bill, which just allowed them more ways to spy on us. Speaking of which, I didn't even talk about this, right? This is separate, and I was going to bring up. There was a study that was just done. I saw this on a Now This, which is a communist news organization too. But a study was done by something with an M, right? Where they looked at 25 auto manufacturers, right? So if you have a new car, specifically a Kia or a Nissan, like look out, because the way that you link all your data in there with your phone and all that, like they are majorly stealing your privacy and information. I think I took a screenshot of it to be able to read to you here.
I've heard something where it's like Facebook is now putting up so many more data storing facilities.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so, it's like, why would they need to put up more data store? Oh, that's right, because they're taking all of your information.
They're storing your information. So, a recent report by the Mozilla Foundation's Privacy Not Included team revealed all major car brands failed to meet basic privacy standards. It discovered that automakers have been collecting an extensive amount of personal data from users, ranging from medical information to driving habits and even sexual activity. Which you think about, there's cameras inside your car. So if some of you get freaky in a car,
they can watch it.
Yeah, they're
it's
putting
to
it up
watch
on some
your kids so that you can look. Oh, Jimmy, what are you doing back there? Quit it. Well,
so
that's
watch out.
nice to know.
The study revealed 25 car brands and 15 companies. 85% of those brands were found capable of sharing or selling personal data. Right? So the big part that I'm getting at there is there was, I think this, I should check before I even say this, but there was a TikTok bill that was introduced, and they did the Patriot Act right after 9/11, which like literally allowed them, like Snowden, Edward Snowden, he was the one that was like, yo, hey, through this Patriot Act, we got cameras on our computer. They can literally be looking at us. We say a trigger word, and they're viewing and audibly listening to us. Same with our TV. They can do it through your TV. Edward Snowden exposed all this, and that's why he's living off in, I think, Sweden or something, because he's running for the government, because they tried to...
he gets deleted.
Right.
Or they're coming, yeah.
And so now with the TikTok bill, they were looking, and I don't remember if this, but the not a governor, what's his name? Senator John Thune from South Dakota, who you think, oh, red state, red, yeah, good guy. No, he like backed this TikTok bill, and it was an expansion of more, like being able to access more of our private user data through it. But they looked at it as like, it's a TikTok bill to protect us from China. It's like, no, it's an expansion of your authoritarianism to spy on me as an American. Right? So that's why they all suck.
Well, and the dumb thing is you and I, we don't have TikTok on our phone.
Mm-hmm.
But if our friend has TikTok on their phone, and then we're sitting there having a conversation with them, well, now they're going to take that information.
Exactly. Okay, lastly, just wanted to throw this out there because I heard this on the radio today. I had to look it up. Minnesota is looking to introduce a death by dignity bill, right? And so what it would be is for anyone that is like within 6 months of like dying of severe, cancer, whatever it be, like on their deathbed, right? That they can take an oral pill to delete themselves, right? But they have to be, there's a bunch of stuff as far as, let's see, if a person meets requirements of the bill, they have to be 18 or older. They have to have a terminal condition, disease or condition that has 6-month prognosis or less. They have to be capable of making their own medical decisions, be capable of giving informed consent, and be acting of their own free will. So if they have dementia or other cognitive disorders, they wouldn't qualify, right? And then it's an oral pill they take on their own, and so they have to be able to swallow on their own, and then they go bye-bye. Anyway, and so like there's this chick in here that I was listening to it, like her father was terminally ill, was dying, and she's like, oh, this is terrible. I'm like, wow, you wanted to delete your dad because she's like, oh, he was taking oral morphine, but it made him so nauseous that he would vomit and couldn't keep it down. I'm like, okay, if that is your situation, I'm like 99% sure you can then talk to the doctors or physicians that are supposed to, because he was doing hospice at home, right? And so she was at his bedside like all the time taking care of him, and he would scream in pain until pretty much he died, is what she's saying. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can talk to your doctors or physicians that would then give him a drip IV, and it would be administered that way, right? Because our youngest, when he was in NICU, they put him on, these drugs and stuff, and I think morphine was one of them. I don't know. He was on a lot of crap. I mean, it was NICU, but it was a drug that would administer every so often, right? And that's what they do when you're at hospice in a hospice facility, is if you're in a lot of pain. So I'm like, okay, so pretty much you tortured your dad then because you didn't go to someone and go, hey, he can't keep this down orally. We need to put him on an IV morphine because he's in incredible pain. So you're just a terrible person, in my opinion.
So you use a horrible situation
Yes.
to justify
To
a horrible situation.
a horrible situation to then push for a bill to be able to off people.
So basically, you're just saying, hey, we have a solution for you to commit suicide.
Yes, right, because they've been doing that up in Canada, and literally, you know, there was a veteran that was like, hey, I'm really depressed, and called the suicide hotline or whatever, and they're like, well, have you ever thought about just deleting yourself? And you're like, oh, perfect, this is good. And they're like, oh, so this is based off of like Oregon's bill that's been around for apparently 20. I didn't know that this has been going on for so long. I thought this was like more recent, but it's like, oh no, this has been around for a while because Oregon's had this bill for almost 20 years.
Of course
right?
it has.
And what's crazy with it, you know, then they're like, oh, well, we're not really, you know, because they're like, are you concerned about, you know, some people are like, well, this is just a snowball thing. Like, you know, if you open this door, it's going to lead to more issues, right? Which is what exactly happened to when we allowed gay marriage, and also now we have trans rights, we have drag queens and all that stuff that falls under that umbrella of the Gay Marriage Act or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So now we got some bigger issues going on in our country than we ever could have imagined. But Oregon, just like in 2022, they now allow where if you are an out-of-state resident, right, it was only for, you had to be a state resident in order to qualify to delete yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're saying, oh, no, there was a lawsuit, and in their constitution, their state constitution, it now says, oh, yeah, so actually anyone that comes that lives out of state and wants to off themselves, they can come to Oregon and do so. And you're just like, no, it's a slippery slope. The moment you open this door, we go down a path of no return.
Mm-hmm.
And you know it's a path of no return because all of our politicians, once they pass these laws, I was thinking about this today, and the numerous amount of laws that we have, I'm like, why do we just go in and make new laws? Because it's always like we go in, we make a law, and if they're like, we don't like that law, so we make a new law. I'm like, why don't you vote to remove that law? And if there's something you like in that law, then, you know, rewrite that. But it's like, no, we just keep adding to it. We don't get rid of the old one. We just add more to achieve what we want.
But if you really want, in a roundabout way, figure all the way through, and you can get back to it.
You can get back to being like, well, that law still exists, so I'm good to go.
Yep.
And you're like, what? So anyway, that's all I have for today.
If this makes you frustrated and you're just pissed, then seriously, like, comment, follow us. We want to hit on topics. We want to be able to just communicate with people that are like-minded. We're not going to be able to touch on everybody. We don't want to touch on everybody because you have different views. But it's one of those, just think about it, look at what is going on around you, and be like, does this really make sense to be a good thing or a bad thing or whatever it may be? Because it's horrible when you really do think about it. Yeah. We're not saying Democrat, Republican, whatever. It's all sides, and yeah, it's ridiculous. So, if you're finding enjoyment out of this, obviously we're getting to the end of it. But like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you want to talk about, because we're really just open. We're new to this. It's just things we're passionate about. But yeah, we can go in depth on whatever. We're just starting. We're literally two dads starting a podcast.
Yep.
Talking on whatever. So.
Yep.
Thanks for sticking with us as
comment,
long as you
subscribe,
have.
Share, all that.
All right. Well,
awesome.
That is episode 3.
Episode 3. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you.
All right. Thanks.